Hello, everyone. Welcome to session 4 of Creativity Camp. So let's get into it. Lafe, take it away.
Greetings, character designers. Session 4. How did we get here? This is crazy, and it's great to see a preview of the incoming work that is arriving with your original characters, even a little bit of a mix of some of the characters that we've been developing from the original story that's been in class. So super excited to look at those and to get started. Let's do a quick recap. We've got a lot on board today, so we're going to just take a quick peek at what we've been doing since last week and what we talked about last week. Last week, we were talking about some things like medium versus genre and the difference between those terms. So medium being the ways and methods in which we're creating work, genre being the category of storytelling. We did some examples with a couple of characters, one of which we're seeing here about how we could take more of a comic book, more illustrative style and taking that to an animated superhero style. We talked about model sheets. We talked about developing a turnaround for a character, applying basic color to characters, and then using that full shot as the standard, as the baseline to establish a turnaround and the basics of that and how you can use guidelines for that. We talked about some quick tips and tricks with that, about copying your full shot a couple of times, then using that with the guidelines to set up where everything would be lining up. So some real practical methods of moving forward with the turnaround, because that can be kind of tough to get all those things lined up, especially if you're just eyeballing it. And then we talked about the model sheet, and the model sheet, as well as everything that you could be combining with that to create somewhat of a portfolio page, or pages, if you will, that collects your process, that collects everything that is showcasing your character that you've been able to assemble so far, including a little bit of a description, the name of the character, the mood board that you've developed, all that hard work, thinking about how do you curate all that and put that together. And that's actually something we'll kind of be doing we're going to be looking at your work most definitely. Before we do that, we'll also be thinking about practical tips to think about and best practices as you're moving forward and creating more of your characters, or if you're thinking about adding to what you've created so far. So indeed, we are talking this week about character presentation considerations, but the main drive, of course, what we're talking about today is your model study and everything you've put together and the hard work that you've done for your character. As Albany was saying, if you have not submitted your work yet, and wow, is it piling up in the folder I'm looking at. So really excited to dig in here and look at work and share work. If you have not done that yet, we're going to have a bit of a warm up here. Our standard kind of 5 minutes warm up. And if you want to use that opportunity, instead of doing the warm up, if you haven't shared your work yet, if you want to share that to creativitycamp@wacom.com, you can use this time to do that if you'd like to get my eyes and everyone else's eyes on your work to kind of hear some thoughts about that. So prioritize as you will. You can either draw the warm-up, and if you have your work in here, and here I point over here in the folder of all your work, of all the work that's been submitted for this week, feel free to take part in this. I think this one's going to be kind of fun in terms of a warm-up, a little bit different, and I hope you'll bear with me. We're going to do a campfire critter. What better place to have a campfire critter than Creativity Camp? So it is definitely that time of year. We're in Creativity Camp where folks will gather around a campfire. And I want you to imagine, folks like to tell stories and ghost stories around a campfire. And maybe that will involve some kind of creepy crawlies and things that go bump in the night. And I want you to consider a creature that roams the forest looking for campfires, that's attracted to campfires as campgoers are around those fires, something that's actually drawn to that. and will make appearances and really scare the bejesus out of would-be camp goers. And so we're going to do a hybrid critter over next 5 minutes, and you know, what can you accomplish in that time? Probably quite a bit. So we're hybridizing. So we're taking existing animals and we're going to put them together into one creature design. What are those animals we're going to use to create this campfire critter that scares campers who are telling stories around the campfire? We're going to have a salamander, kind of creepy. We are going to use a moth drawn to fire. So an amphibian probably isn't, but a moth definitely is attracted to light and fire. And finally, the most terrifying creature of all, that's right, a squirrel. So things that you'll find in the forest. And I want you to think about for the next 5 minutes how you might put those ingredients together to create a campfire critter that, and think about scale too, like maybe it is a little bit bigger, maybe a little more human sized, something that's approaching from the darkness in the forest to a campfire that would make us drop our s'mores and run away off the campsite. So 2 options here. Folks, you can work on this. If you have not submitted your work to the quote unquote homework folder with your character work, you can submit that during this time over these next 5 minutes here. So please feel free to prioritize as you will. Work on a campfire critter. Do we have to do that mix? You know, it's kind of what's here. I like the challenge of that. If you want to do maybe 2 of those instead of 3, you can do that. But I would encourage you to try some of the elements of these and see what you can thread in together. Cool. All right. So draw away, sketch away. Let's see what you can create. And we'll check in here again in about 3 minutes here. Again, with this, and I'll come back to this slide so you can see, you can actually submit this if you want to Creativity Camp at Wacom.com. We have a separate place we'll be looking at those. Might be kind of fun to check in and see, even though it's a very short period of time, what you were able to create with this. Usually the results of this are pretty fun. Oh yeah, let's go back. Jeez. There we go. Yes, sorry about that. I got excited. I didn't go back because I was trying to draw something too. I mean, come on, some kind of hybrid.
Hey, Lafe,
Strange
we do
critter.
have a question in the Q&A if you'd like to
Oh yeah.
respond while people are drawing anyway right now. Or
Sure, that's a good call. Q&A. Okay.
there was one that said, I can read it to you if that's helpful.
Sure. Yeah.
They just graduated from high school, Liliana did, and they are
Yeah.
interested in a career in character design, entertainment design, and they're curious what your thoughts about ways to get into the industry. You know, you're a professor. Do you
Yeah.
recommend a full 4-year college or art school, online programs, or other paths? What do you think about the different ways that people can get into creative careers these days?
I think, yeah, that's a great question, Liliana. I think it depends on where your portfolio is right now and where you personally are feeling like you could level up, and also how you are currently measuring up against those other current entertainment design portfolios. So if you're feeling a little bit like, I wish I had ways to brush up, or I'd like to get consistent feedback and be in a group of peers that I'm kind of seeing how they're developing, as well as seeing how I'm developing against that, and also, quote unquote, keeping your finger on the pulse of where things are going and how things are trending in terms of those portfolios. I do tend to, I mean, I think you can get so far when you're looking online and comparing your work. But there really is nothing like being in that intense group of study and like-minded folks who are after the same goal you are, professors that can kind of lead you in that direction. And I promise you, I'm not saying this just because I'm an instructor. I don't actually um, uh, teach full time in an animation program, but I do think there's something to that. I do think there's something. I mean, and from my experience as a student, I was kind of hungry for that. So I think it's your personal goals and seeing where and how you want to end up. And I will say that, I mean, sometimes you can get into workshops too that will talk about portfolio development. But there's something about just being in that consistent, like you're surrounded by it from a student standpoint, that, and also schools can also have steps and not placement, but presence at conventions and things like that, and conferences to help you get into that place that you want to be, and see if you're measuring up to that. So I hope that helps. Cool. All right, folks. So we should move on, but again, if you want to share your campfire critter, we'll try and check in with that. I'm excited to see what people are putting together with that very odd combo. But we'll check in with that soon. Okay. I'm gonna go through some very quick considerations for model sheets and character presentation, even though you are currently doing this and sharing things right now. But I saw a lot of good things going on, even with a preliminary look. So some of this will just be review, but we had that talk about setting up a turnaround, doing the copy paste thing, and how that could help. So I want to just share a few of those things really quick that you'll also find in this week's recap afterwards. But things like using copy and paste and digitally, but also photocopies, tracing paper if you're working traditionally. There's no shame in using that to kind of set things up. So I was definitely using that with Sadie's emotional states. Definitely using that same head and just doing different facial expressions in there. There was a similar thing going on with that Paranorman sheet we were looking at. Determining how many heads tall Sadie is, which is 5.5, if anyone's curious, at least my version. So using those kind of things, your digital tools, even in traditional tools to help you figure out and maintain consistency. Notes are encouraged. Just keep them legible. I've seen examples in students where not everyone has really beautiful handwriting like Bruce Timm here in the Batman model sheets. I can do some hand lettering, but sometimes it's what am I looking at? So for this example of a character design that I worked on for a commercial, an actor's costume that they were going to be putting on, I was just typing out notes as suggestions to the director to let them know here are some possibilities for costuming. So think about notes, but also think about legibility. And I think that's going to be a theme here. Sketchy energy is okay in your presentations. Aim for clarity. So, definitely with these designs for Chris Sasaki's Anger from Inside Out, we've seen this earlier, but, not every line is perfect here. The energy is there, and we see what this character is about. In fact, that really contributes to this character, having some of that line work that's a little bit more smudgy and sketchy. My apologies, folks. Sorry, folks. Sorry about that. The phone is off now. So let's go back here. This character over here was a character that I had done for a demo, but you can see like the paint strokes that are on here are not quite perfect. When you look up close, it looks pretty, this is a photo bashing character. So using photos and digital painting together. So that chameleon head is coming from a photo of a chameleon. But not every paint stroke is perfect, but the clarity is there of what this character is in this little suit. So then with this, thinking about iteration and exploration, here's more of that kind of sketchiness that's going on, but that's because this character that I was developing for a client was not complete at the time, and they were like, show me some things, show me some different ways we could be looking at this character. So this, in addition to like this pose for this sick bee, doing multiple heads to show it could be like this, the expression could be like this, as well as developing what was a bee pharmacist for this project. And then here's another example of just doing multiple iterations of, if we had a character, what would they look like with different hairstyles, as an alien, thinking about iteration. And at those early stages, that's perfectly fine. Something I see quite a bit with students, the class I was teaching this summer on campus at MCAD, and these were high school students. I would run into students who would have characters' hands behind their backs, or folded, or just we wouldn't see them somehow. And my advice is embrace hands, because hands can be a great acting tool. They also inform the design and tell us, well, then how are we supposed to design hands around this, especially if it's a model sheet and we want it to be wrapped up. And then thinking about, when I say planning your presentation. So if you have a sheet that you're going to be doing, be it a model sheet or kind of what we've seen in those art of books where it's almost like a portfolio presentation. How would you thumbnail that first? So it's kind of like we think of sketches for the character. You can sketch the presentation of the character too, and think about where you're putting in titles and copy or text, and all those things coming together. And this is actually an example of something I was doing for an art of exercise for another class where we had the Von Golson character, and putting together everyone's contributions to that, and really treating it as what if we made our own art of book? So the thumbnail approach can really help you figure that out before you have to make a lot of decisions about where everything's going to be. And then wrapping up really quickly with this so we can look at your work. Other considerations, screen and print presentation. I see this quite a bit where if we're working digitally especially, remember this. If you intend to print, it always prints darker than what you see on the screen, almost guaranteed. So you may have to brighten things up a little bit. And then same thing about, if you're working traditionally, is this going to be visible? Is this going to be something that shows up if I'm looking at it from a distance? Watch consistency in details. So again, if you're working on, even if it's not quite to the model sheet stage yet, make sure oh, well, this character, when you drew the character here, the torso looks much shorter, and then over here, the torso is much longer, or now they have 7 buttons on their shirt, whereas over here they had 3, things like that. Just even if it's not at the final model stage, you want to think about introducing consistency as soon as you can so that you're ready for that when you get to that point. Similar to the thumbnail we just looked at, so using the space of the page. Again, if I think of another course I just taught recently, where someone was developing a model sheet, there was a lot of space that was not used in case of one student. So I was like, well, what's supposed to go there? And the student was like, oh, nothing. I didn't have anything planned there. Oh, okay. That tells me, okay, scale something up so it feels like it inhabits the page. It's using all the real estate, so to speak. And then there are other cases where it's like, whoa, there's so much here. I'm not quite sure what to look at first. So appropriate use of, and again, we're talking about presentation here, appropriate use of that space, especially as you're developing a portfolio. And then share your work. Do other people get it? Don't just share it with the same people you might be sharing it with. Share it with a variety of family, friends, coworkers, teachers, someone who you like. Hey, can you look at this? Tell me what you think this character is. If they can start to tell you, you're probably on the right track. And there can be definitely a sense of mystery to that, which is appealing, but also you want to see that you want to know that what you're trying to communicate is starting to get through to them. So those are some quick takeaways and things we'll probably talk about. And share your work. That's what you're going to do here. What we're going to do is look at your work. So first and foremost, let's just quickly see. We won't spend a whole lot of time on this. It looks like there's a few here, but with the campfire critter, with our hybrid moth, salamander, squirrel, what kind of things were coming together? Let's see. Yeesh. With dialogue even, who disturbs my slumber? Eden, that is disturbing and very appropriate. And I love how you're threading those things together. The moth parts, the antenna are visible. Extra limbs here, like 6 limbs, the squirrel tail. Love that face. Love the size of the eyes. That seems appropriate between salamander and moth too. Very cool. Oh, the whole goal was getting the s'mores. I like it. So very cool with the antenna coming up here and appropriately scary look here. And this person has the right idea going away. Very nice, Fritz. Oh, this is very sleek. I like this. This feels appropriately creepy and weird. Love these shapes. Ooh, this torso that goes into here, stealing the s'mores again. Love it. Maybe we should just invite this critter just for s'mores so we don't have to be afraid of it. But great eye treatment here. Definitely calling back to the different parts and the anatomy of this critter. Nicely done. Nicely done. Excellent. Let's look at, do we have one more? Probably at the top. Oh, this is really cool. That's really cool. Love definitely salamander shape coming in here. And this feels like I don't know, there's some nobility going on here that's really exciting to see with this one. I could see this one really being developed, and the different textures coming together really nicely here. Nice lighting here. Oh, cool. Again, really cool combination of squirrel and love the scale on this. This is definitely monster scale, which would make me run away anyway. Nicely done. Cool. We should move on, because I'm telling you, folks, we have a lot of work in here, and I really want to be able to share some thoughts with as many as these as we can. So this is really going to be my focus, is getting through here and checking out what everyone has contributed. So let's just jump into it. And I'll try and make note here of, as we're seeing the same work, I'll be looking at the labels here. All right, so we've got Gladys here. Gladys makes a triumphant return. AB, I'll just say that. I think we had seen this last week, your start with this, and this has come together tremendously. I love your use of grayscale and highlights here. I remember noting about kind of the flames that felt really appropriate for the kind of the rocketing Gladys that was going on. So kind of this flamingo phoenix that's come together, and the little mini Gladys it looks like here, which is really adorable. And to see like another style approach, I think, is what you're going with there, and that looks very appealing. Great to see your mood board. and your reference coming together. And I love your emphasis on fire here. I think that's a really good choice coming together. And what a turnaround. Excellent. This feels really consistent here, just as I'm eyeballing it. It feels like I can see how everything's where it should be and in the right place as we go across here. And I think you just had two here. So yeah, so just thinking about this, what are things I'd want to see? I just want to see you go to the next stage with this. You've got a great collection of expressions here too that are appropriate. Maybe think about, I see one where she's kind of got the mouth open. Think about going back to that story, like opening that mouth a little bit. Let's see what the design of that looks like. As she's honking and squawking, I think she's doing in the story, and threading that in a little bit with some of the expressions and poses. But I think this is a really strong take, and I'd love to see you go to the next step of incorporating color with this, maybe some paint. I'd love to see how you would treat that. This is an amazing start, and great ideas coming together. So it's not like our typical flamingo. This is definitely the crazed flamingo that is Gladys. So I would say keep moving forward with this. This is strong work. Well done. All right, Alexa, let's see here. Awesome. So I have to just move my little Zoom interface here. Okay, an experienced and enthusiastic veterinarian who specializes in mythical creatures and monsters. Love it. Could this character take care of our campfire critter, perhaps? I think this is a match made in appropriate veterinary heaven here, that we'd want this vet to help. What a great collection of expressions here. I like that you're turning that head even in the expressions. Obviously you're using some smart approaches here to reproduce those heads. They feel pretty consistent going through here. I like your silhouettes. This one's really distinct, and seems to be still capturing who this character is up here. I get a little lost here, but I think I can see what you're aiming for here. It looks like, just trying to manage one of these creatures, which feels like a good moment and tells me about tone of the story as well here. Very cool outfit. So I like the costuming you're giving this character, and how if they're dealing with a mythical creatures and monsters, they're probably going to need to be geared up pretty well, so they're handling those things like we're seeing with this, that this is kind of hinting at. So I like the details you're incorporating here, and some of the things that you've included with this. I could definitely see, this definitely feels like it's aiming for that kind of animated approach, maybe a webcomic approach that's coming through really nicely with your stylistic choices. The facial expressions feel like they're very appropriate for what this character would be running into. And it feels fairly consistent here as we're going from the 3/4 to the rear 3/4. That feels pretty in line. So this is another really successful one. I think what I'd like to see now is, as you're building this out, if this is what their job is, then let's see some of those props. Like, what kind of things does this character have to be handling some of these monsters and mythical creatures? And again, thinking about like what the scale of the creatures that they're dealing with, from very small to, I would imagine, very big if we're dealing with mythical creatures and monsters. So those kind of things I would love to see, and maybe even like a couple in the pocket or something like that, or the ability to reach for those things really quickly if they're coming in. We've got this massive creature that's coming in later today, so we've got to be ready with this particular tool to help us handle that, get that character or that creature in. One more thing about presentation here. This is really nicely aligned. I was just talking about spacing and things like that. Really love your texture that you're choosing back here. That does add quite a bit to the presentation. It's also not distracting, so that your character is coming forward in presentation and presence. So really good choices here. Nice work, Alexa. And I'm not sure if Alexa is your name or the character, but in any case, very nice work. Cool. All right. So now we're getting into Alexis, who it looks like has a few pages here. So we'll do a quick overview. It looks like a lot of great reference coming together. Kind of the insectoid kind of character. And some drawings, gesture drawings, bringing it together, kind of starting to explore it. And then some nice payoff here with this sketch. So again, having that sketchy energy, we do get the sense that like, okay, this is your prep for this. This is your process. I'm a big fan of that. I super appreciate process and seeing that within here. So these are coming together well, and I can see where your reference is paying off. Very nice. Okay, so you've got a great start here. I think that was your last one. Yeah, you've got a great start here, Alexis. I think what I want to see now is obviously moving forward into the finish, because you've done a lot of work to figure out this anatomy coming from your references and really like exaggerating that, looking for exaggerated anatomy that is going to feel a little bit more appropriate for a kind of this more insect-like character, humanoid hybrid. And really love how you've got the long antenna and the wings that are coming together. And it is a treatment kind of like a Bugs Like. I saw that in your reference and inspiration where, okay, this is 4 limbs as opposed to 6, although unless you're counting the wings back there, maybe. But I really like your digital inking approach. I like how you're starting with kind of the sketchy underlayer of blue, and then you're inking on top of that. Your inks look pretty nice. You've got some good thin to thick going on here as we push in. So it looks like you're taking advantage of your underdrawing and really setting that up nicely. I think about this. Here's something to think about. I could see a lot of this coming together in one portfolio sheet if you're thinking about you want to take this to the next level of presentation. So I might recommend getting some dedicated scans of this, or clean up maybe now that you have these in Photoshop, and you can do that with levels really quickly. Amazing how quick, if you're using Photoshop, levels adjusts your white, grays, and blacks. And just working with those sliders very quickly, you can have a cleaned up version of this really quickly and start to arrange that accordingly. And then kind of cut and paste and arrange within there. I think you could have a really nice payoff of some sketches, a more defined sketch, and then keep going with this. Keep inking this. Get a nice clean inked version of this, digital ink version. And then if you are comfortable with using color and or tone, you could move forward with that very easily. In fact, sometimes you can even use pencil smudges and things and like composite that in there. But whatever your approach is to finish this, I think, yeah, let's go forward with that, because it's such a really unique looking character. And I'd love to see more with it. So nice job, Alexis. All right. And this is Analia. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but it looks like Mariel, and we'll see if I'm Mariel. Curious and energetic, sweet Mariel is a little girl playing on her grandmother's farm, discovering little friends along the way. Come on, this is awesome. This is looks ready-made for animation, looks ready-made perhaps for, and you have animation style, so maybe a children's book. So this is kind of more of where you're thinking with the character, and then this is more of the animation style. So this feels very much in line with, this feels very much in line with what we might see on something like PBS Kids, a Disney Channel show. It's feeling right within that realm, which is a compliment. The turnaround is super nice. There's hands, right? You're not afraid of hands or great poses here, characteristic poses. I feel like I'm getting to know this character just in these few seconds of looking at this. Um, good round of facial expressions here. I like the lines you're adding in select places here. Oh, here's for a children's book. Okay, great. Okay, so you've got, yeah, good balance here of different stylistic approaches. Silhouette's really nice. As I was saying, I like where you're choosing to put lines and where you're breaking up lines to kind of keep things a little more free and airy. But it feels like she is a farm kid. It feels like she is getting in there with the chickens and kind of feeding, and might get a little dirty. And the way that you're choosing different representations of that between these styles is really appealing. Oh, nice. Okay, so there we go. So we've got some reference and inspiration. What a collection of expressive poses. And I don't feel like, well, is this animation or the children's book? I feel like you've got a consistency with the character no matter how you're interpreting it, that it's reading very well in all of those. I really want to applaud you for your presentation here too. I mean, it's great. Yeah, come on. You've got the Creativity Camp branding in here to make sure we know where it came from. You've got the palette. This feels like a great starter kit that I think you could hand off to anybody to say, what is Mariel about? And they're going to get it. If I make any suggestions, here's my suggestion is I would like to see the scale of your kind of, let's say, your main style of how you're interpreting Mariel a little bigger in front and center or somewhere in here. I really appreciate and I'm sure our Wacom friends appreciate this too, but like maybe moving this over here and then scaling up your character so it feels kind of like everything else is orbiting around it, so to speak. But my goodness, what a great collection of images, and what a great character you've created. So congratulations, this is really nice. Well done. All right. Andrew brings us Sadie. Look at this interpretation of Sadie. How great is this? This feels super animation ready. And again, I'll be honest, folks, one of the first things I looked at is hands, and they're there and they're chunky and stylized, but I love it. I love how you've interpreted the character and the attitude that's coming through, especially here in this 3/4. Each of these, I get this sense of like uncertainty, maybe a little bit of dread as she's going to see our friend Von Golson. You've got a great kind of head system going on there with how many heads tall Sadie is, so good approach with that. I like your level of finish here. Even though this is in grayscale, you've got this really defined against the darker background. So I can read silhouette there. That's very clear. I can read how you've designed clothing and the consistency in the lineup between, I mean, like, things like boots, her shoes, they're consistent each time. And I like also how you've kind of done this nice reduction plus exaggeration that's so essential for this kind of design, which feels really appropriate for animation. So those things come through really well. I'd love to see it in color, of course. This, keep thinking about this here. It feels like this comes forward a little bit more than it gets here, and that's a tough angle. So I salute you for getting there. I feel like this one feels a little more in line, but I think you could also almost like kind of cheat this a little bit, like Mickey Mouse. Those ears when Mickey turns his head, they're the two circles that stay there. You might be able to keep that bill kind of approach, that bill design, where we see the underside of it consistently through here. So that might be something that you explore as you move forward with this Sadie. But love this, love your approach to this, and really good solutions going on there with Sadie. Keep these, it looks like she's got some kind of the edge of the vest. Keep those lines there too. But Andrew, nice work. Well done with this Sadie. This looks great.
Hey, Leif, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to give a quick time check. We've got about
Yep.
40 more minutes or so, and
Yep.
we've got so many great response submissions, so we want to may have to go a little bit more quickly to try to get through as many people as we can.
I will do that. In fact, I'm going to turn on my I'll get well, I can't turn on my stopwatch, but I'll be looking at the clock, and I'll go a little bit faster here. Thank you, Albany. Thank you for the heads up. So we are at Angel. Yeah, we're still on the A's. So okay, so I will be a little faster here. So here we go. Okay, so just making sure that we don't have more than one here. This looks great. Beatrice Simpson, definitely calling back to the Simpsons and kind of a combination of things here. So this is really interesting. And you've got a collection of different styles. So you've got kind of your style, the Bat Wheels edition inspiration, and then you've got kind of the anatomy that's set up, a whole lot of different illustrations going on here, and then as you get to more in a Simpson style. So I like these worlds coming together. I think this is something we haven't really seen too much of. So great collection here. It looks like you're getting this from that Simpsons Art of book, which is amazing. And it looks like it's paying off for you here. So my only suggestion here is I love the approach here. I think getting some sense of hierarchy in the presentation. So like the one that you really want us to look at, which design is the most, this is a showcase, the anchor for you. I'd scale that all the way up and then kind of make things smaller around that. I love all the theory you've got here. So keep moving forward with that and just think about kind of your hierarchy of imagery. Which one do you want us to really focus on? Angela. Okay, so we have with Angela this character Althea, an amicable siren priestess. Great collection here. So we can see like there's a little bit of maybe not hybridizing, but like in the wardrobe and the costuming, there's some things that are beyond human here, or at least going beyond like typical footwear and things like that. Her wings and talons. So this is not costuming. This is part of her. Others speak truths that others may fear but need to hear. Good collection of expressive heads and a great full shot. So this is a great start. So this is like the essentials of what we would want to see with the start of a model sheet. So Angela, I would say let's start working on some more poses here. Because I don't quite get a sense of her true like personality or attitude. Are we scared of her? Does she spread those wings and like defend or attack, protect? I'd like to see a little bit more of that as you're moving forward. So give us those, and I think you're on a very solid start for expressing who this character is. And I'm excited to learn more about her. Well done. Okay, and then we go to a couple here from Ennis. Very nice. Okay, so we've got a great start at this character who looks like they are playing a guitar. You've got some different interpretations. It looks like you did some different studies from different characters to kind of arrive at this. Fairy princess who loves to spread joy to everyone around her with her music. Excellent. So my quick suggestions here are, one, keep going. I think continuing to study like some of these characters, like it looks like you've got Tinkerbell here and maybe some other characters, and really look at how those artists were handling anatomy and how they were designing that. I totally get and see where you're coming from with this. So kind of leaning against like maybe a wall with the guitar. Love the details on the guitar too. So I'd say keep going with this and think about, keep doing those gesture drawings, look at some live models, keep coming back to this, and the design of this, the elements you're including with costuming, her hair, the butterflies in her hair and the wings, all of that is looking great. I would say keep doing some figure drawing and keep returning to this and revisiting and applying that costuming as you're finding kind of that mannequin type and the way you want her to move as she's playing, because it looks like you've got some plans for like she's sitting, she's standing. I love that. I think that's a great approach to how you can do that. And thinking about how she might be singing as well, like doing some expressive heads for that. So great start with this. And now we're at Ariana or Ariana or Ariana. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but this is cool. This is all right. Her face opens when she's mad. That is wild. Okay, so Ari the silly Billy goat. Okay, so that is kind of beyond beyond the regular Billy goat, it looks like. And again, great start with a turnaround. This is a really appealing looking character. Nice silhouette. That's her hand. Okay, good hand study there. Good run. And you got some different expressive heads. So this is kind of the angry one, which is super scary. And yeah, this is coming together well. I think it's just a matter of, I appreciate the shot of your desk too. That's really cool to see, like very much in progress. So very much feels in progress. I would be excited to see now how you would take this to the next level of finish. And it might just be, you know, scanning this, again, cleaning it up just a little bit, and you might just be able to develop or add some color to this or tones just directly from this, because your line work is really pretty nice. I think watching things like consistency of like the length of limbs and things like that, like they get a little bit longer here as opposed to here. So that's where that consistency can come into play. And maybe this is like a matter of like, okay, well, how many heads tall is she? And going from there, and then seeing comparatively, like, well, her arms wouldn't be this long, but there may be like the length of her face in total. So like if I'm just looking at that, so just watch for things like that. Otherwise, you've got a great combination of shapes and textures coming together, and I think you'd be ready for the next stage of bringing this to a finish. So nicely done. Cool. Okay. Let's see. We are at Ari. Okay. Naughty scientist cat who gets into a lot of trouble. Great collection here. I really appreciate this. Some may call it a catastrophe. Get out of here. Elber the cat. All right, so love this. A good collection of expressions and head turns here. Nice reference that you have over here. I want to know more about this character. And I think the tail's doing a lot to be part of the character and expressive. I think you could do a little more with that tail. It seems to, I mean, it's great, and it's definitely something that should be there. But think about, I mean, cats' tails are so expressive. You could have it kind of down in some places, twitching a little bit more. So I feel like that is a place where you could expand on this and really think about developing the personality as you're moving forward with that. But this is great, and it looks like you've got a good handle on like the color that you'd want to approach with this. So yeah, let's move forward with that, and think of the tail and think of the ears like you're doing here. Same kind of idea. Keep going with that. All right, Ashley brings us this character. I think you've got a couple here, Ashley. Okay, great. All right, lots of expressions coming together. And it looks like kind of a story shot or a combination of characters coming together. So nice here. I think again, the thing is keep pushing this to arranging this in a model sheet. And let's see that full shot. I mean, you're clearly on the way with all these head studies that are going on. So you could start to arrange those on a page all on its own if you wanted to. And then let's see this as a full shot. Where we can see the full character and understand how you'd like to complete that character and how we might see that character as a full shot on screen. Nice. Thanks, Ashley. Okay. And it's either Brian Y or Brianne or Brian. I'm so sorry, folks. Hey, I understand my name. I've heard it every which way. So I appreciate if you're like, hey, read my name correctly. But this looks like a great study here, a great collection of approaches that you have started here. And I love your shape studies that you're getting started with. This is super cool. Nice. Kind of mushroomy. A lemon. Okay, all right, lemon going on here. And it feels nice and cushy up there. So that's a very cool approach that you have. You got some good notes there. Yeah, great starts. Good shape language too. Again, kind of same thing we've been hearing here. Like we had such a short sprint here with this workshop, but you're in a great place to take this now and move forward. Good hands. Really love this drapery here. Wow, that's a nice approach to that. And I feel this line of action right through here. So you've got good movement with this, even with these simple shapes. And I think you planned that well, where you have simple shapes that you can move around. So let's keep going with this and think about how you can arrange this as you move forward into a model sheet. All right, Carolina. Great sense of movement coming towards us. This is a great full shot that you have. It feels very much in motion. It feels like it's got momentum to it. You've incorporated good movement into that already. And I like where you're headed with this, with the expression here. I would like to see more of this reverse shot with the back view, if you're going to do that. So this would just be a matter of kind of scaling this probably down, moving up. And again, so much of putting these together really is its design in and of itself, of thinking about the best way to present this. But the tones you're using here are really nice. You've got a good handle on some of the drapery. And I'm starting to get a good feel of who this character is. So let's explore more. Let's do more expressions and maybe a pose. I mean, this feels very much like a witchy character. So let's see some of those action poses that they would be doing that are characteristic for them. All right. Nice job, Carolina. Kaylee. Very nice. Okay, so we've got a lot of very cool things going on here. Intricate line work. That's the first thing I noticed with this. Appreciate your reference and inspiration that you're putting together here. And really unique anatomy that's going on here. And I don't mean unique like wrong. I mean like you've done a cool stylization on kind of the more elongated look for this character, which is feeling really cool. So that kind of makes me wonder, like, not that you're designing a whole cast, but like, what do other characters look like in this world? And how can we start to envision them? Especially in a world that looks like it's more in the realm of the fantastic. I'm really interested in that. So that makes me curious about the rest of your story. Great drawing, great details, great little poses. What I would suggest here is, again, I want to see the character in full, maybe a little bigger, so that visual hierarchy. I mean, it feels like this is one where you take it and you do 2 pages of this. That would be my suggestion for what you have here, because there's so many cool things to look at, that I want to slow down and take more time on looking at each of those things, especially since they're so nicely packed with details. That star pattern is gorgeous. Nice work. Chloe, okay, what do we got here? Okay, so we've got your final character. We've got some cool reference and inspiration. Scorched tears and happiness. Old man Kuroki, the ghost of a cormorant fisherman, condemned to long days of punishment for his actions. This looks really cool. Let's move this up. Very cool. Again, detail packed and burnt edges, magma covering his limbs. He sank to the bottom of a river, but it felt like sinking to the center of the earth. Very cool studies here. Love the colors you've done here. It looks like this is marker and or colored pencil. This approach feels very warm. This looks like, I'm sure this is sketches on paper, it looks like, although sometimes it's hard to tell, but this is a really nice approach to this story, and I want to see this story in action. I actually want to see this. So I'd be interested in how you want to produce this, and how you would move forward with this, because this is a really unique looking character. And again, I kind of like knowing that it's a ghost. Like, are there any little moments where something changes with the appearance? We just saw that Billy Goat character where the face opens up. Are there any gotcha moments like that, or is it more of a subdued and quiet thing? And right now it feels more in line with that. So it doesn't mean it has to have that. My suggestion, think about taking the same paper texture, making it the whole background, and so it feels like it's just coming out of one background. Sometimes the blocks, the squares, the rectangles kind of interrupts the rhythm of us viewing this a little bit. And if it's all on one, if you had that same kind of color and texture behind and combined all these, I think it'd be a really strong presentation. It's well on its way to being there. This is a cool, unique character. So nice job, Chloe. Chris. Of my wife and her horse, Angel, and the rest of the cast at the barn last year. I want to up my game on Angel's expressions and movements. Okay. And I think you have a few here. Nice. A horse is, I salute you for tackling a horse and drawing a horse. Having done it a few times, it is not easy. But I can tell from your approach to this that you're fully invested. And you're putting some good character traits in there to kind of let the horse communicate a little bit. Yeah, so this feels like a nice humorous approach to this. And I think if you're upping your game on Angel's expressions and movement, I think a lot of times what you can do is start to look at like classic cartoons, quite honestly, and cartooning. Because with the sense of the eyes that you've got here, it feels like it's going with a more cartoony approach. I think you can start to introduce a little bit of line work because what I get confused about is which leg is in front of the other here. So that's something you can think about. And a little bit like this too. So if you have lines, think about line weight. And how you can have a heavier line weight around here to show that that part is closer to us, and the same with this, like the head is closer to this. If you're using lines, you can bump that line weight. The thickness is what I mean by that, of that. And I think this is a charming little project you've got going on here. So yeah, keep moving forward with that. And I would say keep thinking about like different poses you can get the horse in, and draw the horse, draw directly from the horses. I mean, that can do nothing but help you. So yeah, good luck with this, Chris. This is great. Accidental murder chicken. Great. Wow. All right. Let's see. Let's take a closer look here. So we've got misunderstood chicken that wants to make friends. Fantastic. This is super fun and appealing. You've got great presentation here, by the way. So like this feels like, I mean, you've got a good sense of design. It feels kind of like the back of a book cover or like end papers of a book, quite honestly. And I think that's a triumph in and of itself. And sometimes like, is this character more of a reduced and limited expression and things like that? How far would we push that? So that would be the thing I'd be asking at this point is, it's kind of got a plushy look, which maybe you're thinking of designing for toy design or plush design and things like that, which I've seen happen. So you can consider if you want this character to emote a little bit more and move a little bit more. And those are the things you could start to explore. Nice job, Crystal. All right, Dan brings us Renee. Seems to have bumbling, daring celestial who came down to the human world to indulge in learning human nature and customs due to her boredom from celestial customs. Very cool. Cool start here. Like the costuming, like the different approach here of a different style. And you're making good use of kind of that copying the heads and getting different expressions in there, like the approach that you have for reference and inspiration. The thing I would ask is, so Celestial comes forward. How do we hint at that? What is something that can start to be incorporated that makes Renee different from humans and like coming from this different place? So the costuming starts to do that. You can think about this, like if we line Renee up against another person, sometimes this is where it's helpful to have like a little bit of a mini cast lineup. That can tell us a lot comparatively about that. But you're in a good start here. You did the good flip of the front to get to the back view, which is very smart. So I love this. I love the costume that you got here, and I think that's the one thing I would push for is think about how do we differentiate from humans a little bit, and maybe it would be more clear when you have a human from this world. So nice job, Dan. Deserters. I'm trying to see what's down, and I am not of the German speaking persuasion, but I'm curious what this is. And this is a great little standalone piece, a story moment between two soldiers, it looks like, and something different is going on here. Your textures look great. Your textures look very different for the background and the environment than we have in the characters themselves. I like your treatment here. You have a stylized treatment of folds, but I think that's something that is worthwhile and definitely setting up your stylistic choices. So this is a nice moment that you have here, and I want to know more. I love your sense of color here. You've got kind of cooler colors towards the bottom before we get to the warm colors at the top. So some really nice things going on here in this deserters moment. So nicely done. Then we get to Eden's. Let's go through Eden's here. It's like Eden's got some, what is my purpose in life? That cloud looks like a chicken nugget. Very cool. Oh, nice. Okay. Nice solid turnaround here. Okay. Eden, you've got some nice moments going on here, and a really nice turnaround with this character. So that helps bring everything together with the sketches. So turnaround looks pretty solid. Just eyeballing that. Consistency is going on there. Yeah, excited to see more. And I think the thing, and again, I know this is a sprint that we just went through, but seeing some kind of accumulation of this into like a portfolio piece, I think is just waiting to happen. So you're in a really good place here. The handling of the markers looks really good too. I appreciate that that traditional approach too. And I think you can also think about like even bringing this in digitally and starting to paint and finish over that as like an additional illustration, and that can really give it a unique look that you can't find just from digital. So nice job. Good expressions too. Okay, we get to Gab. Character design, Kipper model study. Oh, come on. So a jump roping kangaroo, get out of here. This is cool. Nicely done. Super clean character. You look pretty confident with the way you're handling this. This is a great pose here. It feels solid. Getting the idea very clearly. I like your gestures that you have to kind of explore. Silhouettes come through really nicely. Good turnaround. Wonderful expressions, hair shaped like letter K. Really good moments of design thought going on here. And you've got some different styles. Oh, great. A Winnie the Pooh design style, Sing movie style. Yeah, good handling of oh, cool. Good handling of different material, different approaches, I should say. The materials are more or less the same, but you're able to shift gears pretty nicely. This is awesome. I want to see more from this character from Kipper. If I say anything that you can think about is with your turnaround, try and get a more characteristic pose there. This guy feels like he's gonna actually, let me reverse that. This guy feels like he's gonna tell this guy to loosen up a little bit. I feel like he could have a little bit more of his, whatever, the shopping pose, I like to call it, or just like the more characteristic pose, and then turn that around. Because this is a really cool character. You got a good sense of lighting, anatomy, expression, a lot of life to this. So nice job with this. Very cool. Isaac is it might be Isaac. Sorry again if I'm not getting it quite right. Wow, what a collection for the lore collector. What a collection of images and great full shot. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm thinking of when I'm talking about hierarchy of imagery. Like, we know where we're going first. Like, you do a great job of pointing this out. Like, look here, lore collector. The corrector is somebody else. The lore collector, and then we go down and we see this great pose, and what an assembly of unique expressions going on there. Nice work with that. The turnaround and some nice poses and moments here. And you've got an adventurous bookworm who travels the world collecting stories, mostly comic books. Looks like these are gestures that may have inspired that. So these look tremendous. I mean, you've got a good sense of what you would handle here with this kind of embellishment, and then more of the flats. So I mean, this feels really ready to go. I mean, if anything, I would just say, like, you could probably break this up, because I mean, I love this as an assembly of everything all together. I think you could also think about breaking it up into like a little quasi booklet, like a different moments there. And I like your different head studies here, like the exploration and process all together with the finish coming together really strongly. So great work on the lore collector and the personality that emerges here in addition to the finish. Nicely done. Let's see here. We are at Jason Bob model study. Realistic Bob, Lord Bob Bobsworth, jack of all trades, working in the Army, Navy, construction, electrical, teaching at Harvard. My gosh, everything. So it's the Bob of all trades, not the jack of all trades. This is fun. There's a place for kind of the minimalist approach, and you hear a lot like, I can't even draw a stick figure. So kind of playing on that, I think, is something that we haven't seen a whole lot of, and it's something that you could move forward with. And I love the idea of realistic Bob. Like, if someone was painting Bob, what would it look like? And it would look something like this. So very fun, Jason. We're going to Jazz here, and I think, yeah, okay. So this is great. Good start. Really unique look at the facial features, and then different costuming, and kind of a similar pose with different expressions. So let's just keep moving that character around. Let's keep thinking about what kind of different poses and acting, because the acting's starting to come through nicely here with this, and that's what I'd want to see you keep moving forward with. So let's make that character act, and keep doing those gestures so you can move that character around. Very cool. All right, we have Jolie. I think Jolie's got a couple here. Wow, awesome. Different interpretations here. Love this. Love the lighting on this, your color choices. Very clearly a lot of thought that went into that. Even got a logo here. Multi-realm, a story in development where she and her identical twin sister stumble upon a mysterious portal in an old abandoned house. One that will unravel secrets. I'm hooked. I want to know more. This is great. Yeah, I'm sign me up. I want to know more about this. I love how you're getting you're making your process very clear here, and kind of this is more of the showcase look of this. My one want is a full shot which I bet you have in there. So maybe you were just thinking about how you were presenting this for this, but give us that full shot in addition to the great silhouettes and expressions. And please keep working on this. This is gorgeous. This is great. Julia. Okay. Inkman or Inkman. So, okay, you got some history and progress from 2012. You did a lot of research on ink splatters. This is cool. I'm curious if you made those, which would be pretty cool. Oh, wow. This is really cool. Okay. Mm. Ah, great. Spilled inkwell. Okay, cool. I appreciate that you've got like a scene here. My goodness. And kind of different environments using ink or digital ink, and how you arrived at this, and like, yeah, you're kind of letting this be the open space for expression. So I think that's a good choice. And then the you could tell where this guy has been probably by his trail. uh this is really exciting. I think this is a cool character that you could think about. Yeah, yeah. Let's get some more poses in there. I love the walk, but I'd love to see, like what the impact is of him moving around, or if he can change shape. Can he reduce to ink? Um, does he can he kind of go into a brush or something like that, or a pen? Splatters his way through whimsical shadows where every blot holds a secret. This is people, yeah, folks, you're swinging for the fences here. So I love this unique concept, and this is really exciting. So take this to the next stage. This feels like an introductory illustration to kind of talk more about your concept. So that's what I would recommend doing, in addition to more poses. Nice work, Julia. Cool. Going as fast as we can here, folks, so we get a look here. I know the clock is ticking. K Div brings us Hildy. Hildy? Oath-broken knight in search of a greater purpose and encounters newfound loyalty fighting for a cause. Very cool. Okay. Lots of promise here. Great sketches, great explorations of costuming, poses. Yeah, I feel like, you know what? I feel like taking this one. Let's finish this drawing, make it a full shot, and then you could start to arrange these other moments around that. I feel like if you get this one finished, like from head to toe, that's going to open up the rest of these, and you could start to reintroduce some of these marker techniques and tones into some of these other shots that you have started. You've got some great reference to go from, so let's keep going. Nice work, nice drawing and textures going on there. So I know you can move to that next step. Keep going. All right, Lance has a few here. So we start off with some reference. Pretty cool angle going on here and some underdrawings. And then Rex Malkin, the Road Knights. Dig it. All right, cool. Looks like some holographic information here. Maybe a bounty hunter type character, perhaps. Post-apocalyptic kind of mutant. So Mad Max kind of style stuff going on here. Very cool. Yeah, let's take that to we do have a full shot, because I always look for, like, let's see head to toe what's going on with the costuming. So I think maybe figure that out a little bit more, because it looks like you're playing with some options here that are a little bit different from drawing to drawing. But figure that out, because you've got, look at this line of action, look at this pose. Those are looking really strong, and I'd love to see how you can carry forward with figuring out that design. Seems like you're pretty confident with the head, and kind of nailing that down a little bit more. Really unique character. This feels like the start of a cool series. Let's get a few more here. Gosh, so many of you have stuff here. So we've got Farmer Philip and the story of Farmer Philip. Okay. Nice. Okay. We got lots of images here. Character study. Oh my. Okay. Okay. Yeah, good starts here with Farmer Philip. And you do have some great images here to start working from. So I mean, I think you've got a great kit to draw from here. And I would love to see this character. So and you know, this kind of reference is priceless. So I think especially since it's coming, it looks like actually some of your history, perhaps. I think keep going with this and draw, you know, sometimes draw directly from the reference to start, because then you can start to reduce that a little bit and find out the style that you want, because it looks like you're starting to articulate what you want to aim for here. Interesting. I would be excited to see more of this. I recall this from last week. Start from this. Uh, wow. Okay, so great combination of drawing plus putting textures on here that you're finding from photo textures, it looks like. Um, great. Stacky, I think was what Avani was saying earlier. Mold entity that can spread and travel through mold. This reminds me of I think it was Stephen Gammell's work in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, his ink wash work. There's something decidedly both appealing and I dare say cute and also creepy about everything that's going on here, which I think is a combination that is hard to get, Liliana. So nicely done with this. My question is, what is the scale of this character? So if you can start to think about, like with this really cool full shot here, like what would you sketch behind the character to show how big the character is? Or can the character grow to multiple sizes because of the material, the mold? Um, I would also, okay, so it does have 3 dimensions, so it's not flat. That would be interesting too, to see how it changes from front to back. I'm really interested in learning more about this. So I hope you keep working on this and developing this and sharing this. Nice work. We probably have time for maybe a couple more folks. I wish I could talk faster and go through things faster here. But here we go. So here's Lily's. Lily's got a great collection here. And this looks like our buddy Von Golson. Oh, so maybe another one. So this, hats off here. I think we saw some of this. Dig the helmet. Mm. Wow, different interpretations. Okay, here we go. I think this is what you're aiming for. Okay, so you've got good silhouettes going, drawing over those, it looks like, and kind of getting started with that. So going back here, hey, you've got a great collection here of, I'm not sure what your story, I mean, clearly it's some kind of Western, but if you have the starts that you have on Von Golson, and if you're going from here, you know, I'm confident that you're going to get it to a great place here with this character. So how you're developing this, I'm really curious to see, but your process seems to be in a good place. So just going forward and thinking about adding finish to this. And maybe you could do that with Von Golson, since you have good starts with that. How would you bring him to a finish, and then think about how you'd bring these to a finish? Abani, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, I wish we could get to everybody's. There's
I
so
know there's
many. I
so
know
many.
you were
This is
going as fast as you could. Yeah, let's do one more.
okay. This is amazing. And so we'll do one more here with Lisbeth. And Lisbeth has, looks like 3. Okay. So we've got some great starts at gestures and some faces here. And this is Sadie, I believe. Okay, yeah, great. I think we saw Sadie last week, maybe. But these are great. Oh, this is tremendous. Okay. Great mood board, and great handling of different interpretations, like more of the animated look, and the perhaps the more standard look that you were going for with Sadie. Sandy's fine too. And I I love these moments. Kind of staring probably at Gladys. Great range of emotions here, and a great handling of this style of Sadie and your little collection of like little moments that you developed over here. Elizabeth, this is great. I love how you were going from one to the next. So I know we're at time. Folks, I'm including my email address in the recap. Please feel free to email me and send these to me, or I'll have reference to these. But if you want to hear my thoughts on what's remaining, we got about halfway through. I'm serious. Contact me, and I'll send you some quick feedback for real.
And that's it. Fill out the survey. Thank you all so much for being here. Have a great rest of your summer and in school year if that's coming up for you. And stay creative. Keep drawing. Never stop learning. And we'll hopefully see you at the next one. Alrighty, everybody. Bye bye.